Christine from the European Startup Association, and I'm here with one of our members, Catherine. And she was a speaker at our last European Startup Festival, was talking about storytelling and why this is important, and it was really fascinating to see. So thank you very much for taking the time to do this short interview with me. I'll hand over to you so you can introduce yourself and what you do.
Thanks, Christine. My name is Catherine Ogilvie, and I'm very lucky. I live in the southwest of France, and I've worked in global marketing and communications probably for far longer than I should admit, probably about 40 years. And over that time, I've kind of come to bring together a lot of knowledge and experience I've gained over various companies. And what I've really learned is that it really helps to have structure and process when you're trying to put, for example, marketing plans, business plans. When you're trying to develop your brand, you need some kind of structure and base. So what I did was I thought, well, how would I actually put that together? And yes, I am writing a book about what to do, but that takes a while. And I'd rather get out and talk to people, get feedback, and look at how what I believe marketing and communications is all about in the context of a world that's changing so fast. The way, we communicate, the timescales in which products come to market, the changing demands of our communities and our environments. And how can we keep pace with that? I've always been fascinated by what I do. I love what I do, and I look forward to being able to share that, and hopefully some of my experience maybe have helped to some of our members.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think it's a valid point because marketing is difficult to keep up with when you try to do it yourself. I mean, there's some basics and stuff that never change. And also when I did marketing consulting and stuff like that, it's always like, okay, how can I package something that's constantly changing? The way we communicate, the way the people are, the generations, the way the apps come out, the technology goes. And how can we extract something that's always valid and timeless, basically? And then when you work with an individual, how can you adapt and to the times that we're having at the moment?
That's right. And it's also understanding where you fit into the bigger picture and understanding what the marketplace is doing, because, you really, really have to know, okay, where is your position with your brand or your product and what you're doing, and what is the market doing? What are your competitors doing? And how can you make sure that you really stay focused on being able to be successful by understanding the forces around you and looking to what's happening outside as well as inside your particular company or startup.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And that can be a challenge for a lot of people to stay up to date with things that are happening and to find out exactly, okay, what's my place in here in all their ways.
And so many people just forget to listen to the one important person, that's the customer.
Yes, yeah, that's true. A lot of time, I always say as well, listen to everyone, but first, of course, to your customer, then to experts in that field, maybe, but also listen to everyone as people who are not in your field, because everyone has different point of views and might give you trigger new ideas and see how you can position yourself in the market.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, thank you. So coming back a bit to storytelling, why do you think, I mean, you touched on things already maybe with what you said, but why do you think storytelling, what does it mean, storytelling, and why is it so important for startups?
Well, for me,
really.
Yeah, for me, why it's so important is it's kind of like the backbone of who you are. It's the backbone of your brand. It's the backbone of your company. Understanding exactly, kind of what are you? What do you stand for? What are your values? What's your mission? What do you want to do? Where are you now? And where do you want to go? And all that kind of develops out into this kind of structure of a story. And I, as you know, Christine, I use the analogy of a film script in that we try and think about, the hero versus the villain solving an unsurmountable problem or outcome or some other situation, and then being able to move forward. And what does that mean for the future? It's just kind of a fun way of trying to actually pinpoint who you are, what you're about, what the problem is that you or your company is trying to solve, how you're going to overcome it, and how that will then impact the bigger world, as it were. And by thinking in terms of that, and the more traditional way is your mission, which is where you are now, your vision, which is where you want to go, your positioning, which is how you see yourself in the market. And those three things are important, as I say, because they're the backbone of your brand. And they're very, very important to anybody that you're, for example, trying to approach, like, potential investors or potential customers. It gives them a really clear, concise way to understand who you are and what you do.
Yes, yeah, I agree completely, obviously. And if we talk a bit more about what storytelling actually means, because a lot of people don't understand what it means, and people sometimes are afraid of, oh, I don't know, how can I create a story? Because when you go to events where you have big speakers maybe, and they tell their story, a lot of times big names and big motivational speakers, let's say, they have something dramatic that happened in their life. It could be something dramatic on the good side or on the bad side.
Excellent. Yes.
Side or something, and they use this, I mean, not because they want to use it, but they just use that to create a story because it might have been the beginning of something that triggered something and why they started their business, for example.
Yeah.
But not everyone has this, and I think everyone can still create a story around what they're doing. So do we have some top tips for people? You already started with talking about the structure, thinking about the villain and the hero, but how can people be less afraid of creating their own story if they don't have something that really impacted their life, but maybe something that they think is small and not worth mentioning and a story around?
I think to flip it around and think if they don't at the moment have that pivotal thing in their lives that made them do this, and believe me, eventually they will remember, aha, that was it.
Yeah.
Think of what they're trying to do. What is the problem that you think you're trying to solve with your company? Make it, kind of look at it from the other side and come at it from that way. There are always, different angles you can look. Or what have you heard from, maybe when you've been out in the street, people said, oh my goodness, I wish we had something that did that. And just taking smaller points. But again, if you've got a framework, if you can think of it in terms of, okay, if I'm the hero, here I am, and this is what I want to do with my company. This is the problem I want to solve. What's stopping me? And taking it very simply, bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. But if nothing else, if that's too much of a thing to bite off, the one thing I really, really tell, or my biggest piece of advice, is make sure you can really do what we call the elevator pitch. Being able to explain what your company does in about 15 seconds, it's worth its weight in gold. And I think if just start with that, just try and get a group of the team together and get everybody's view. Okay, what do we do? And you're limited. It's like, you have to keep it short. You have to keep it on point, on target. And I guarantee that will really focus the mind and start to think then about the bigger narrative.
Yeah.
Once you have that bigger narrative, what that then gives you the opportunity to do is take different threads. Because if you've got different problems that you're trying to solve, you can kind of develop these secondary storylines, which will help you personalize your brand to the various situations that you come across. But having that backbone is what I always say is the most important thing. And let's just start it. If you can't do the whole thing, start vertebra by vertebra, piece by piece by piece. And it's fun. It really is. And it makes you think about really who you are and where you want to go with your business.
Yeah, that's very, very good advice. Thank you. And coming back also to that elevator pitch and conveying actually what you're doing and make people understand what you're doing in a simple way is what a lot of people struggle with. And I think it's important to mention that storytelling is basically in everything that you do. When you tell people what you do, you should not only just say, oh, I'm a website developer. Oh, okay. Maybe you put a bit meat around that while you're doing things, and maybe you want to change the world, maybe you want to disrupt the market, then that could be a story in itself and should be always be when you're talking to people. Yes, quickly say exactly what you're doing, but then maybe give a bit of story around it, because people meet it's so difficult to be different this time,
Yes.
because everything basically already exists. So disrupting things in a way you're doing things, or with new technologies, can be difficult depending on in which industry you're in and what you're doing and what you're offering. But the reason why you're doing things might be different, and the reason, the way you're doing things, is also as a consultant. I mean, how many marketing consultants are there?
Exactly.
And how do you differentiate yourself? And people, if you go to a networking event and you meet 50 people, and you meet
Why
20
did
of,
they remember you?
yes, how do they remember you? Because there might be 20 people in the room that do exactly the same that you do.
Yeah.
So, but if you talk to people and tell them a bit more about yourself, make it personalize your story and why you're doing things, they will remember you, and they will, yeah, maybe you can even find your one thing that makes you you. But yeah, as you say, just being able to say things in an easy, quick way is already a challenge for most people.
I think the other really important element is understanding what your brand, what your company values are.
Yes.
What are the three things that are going to hold you together, going to be the glue that holds the company together internally as much as creates success externally? And how do you kind of implement those in everyday life, which brings the brand not only external but also internal? Because I think the companies that I've seen that have been most successful, and a couple of the ones I always go back to, are people like Red Bull, people like the Virgin brand, a network of companies. They have such a strong internal brand culture. Everybody buys in to three core aspects of what they do. And not only does it help in the end, I think, produce a much better working environment for everybody if you all agree on certain things, but it makes you externally more successful because everybody's driving in one direction.
Yes, yeah, so true, so true. So, and even more important is that you need to define the values, but you need to live them, like you say, and everyone in the team needs to live them, because otherwise, if you don't deliver on what you promise, basically, people, it's going to fall apart, and people will see through it, and it won't feel genuine. So, yes.
And to put all that together, that's when process comes in. That's when you need that structure to actually be able to deliver it, I think, in a cohesive way. And again, just coming back to how I started out, that's what struck me over the years. Is I've been in so many marketing meetings where the wall has become covered in Post-its. But how do you bring order? How do you bring some kind of deliverable out of just maybe a 3-hour brainstorm? And that's where you need the process, and that's where you need the structure.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you would like to say about you, about what you do, or any other specific insights you would like to share?
I'm passionate about working with startups. I've worked in big companies, but I've also done my share of working at the sharp end. I've been a startup myself.
Yeah.
I love technology, and for me, the way technology changes consumer behavior, and vice versa, in the way consumers are pushing technologies to mirror their lives, are things I feel very strongly about. As I say, I love what I do, and if I can, I'm very happy to help members. If they just want a sounding board for a new idea, if they would like some, just some input on structure, I'm very open to helping. I live in Southwest France. I speak French, German, and English. And what else can I say? I travel the world.
Yes, I travel the world as well, as you know. So, and for me, traveling is the best education you can do, because you learn so many things from different cultures and stuff like that. Perfect. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Christine.
Looking forward to having you at our next event and involving you more, supporting our members and supporting you.
Great. And I will be next on stage in Salzburg at the end of March at a very exciting event called Culture Tech.
Yes, thank you very much for sharing that. So everyone, make sure you check that out, Culture Tech in Salzburg, and then you can see Catherine speaking.
Okay, thanks, Christine.
Bye.
Bye.